Hello, and welcome to Profit and Sense, where we make money, business, and markets easy to understand. If you've ever felt lost listening to economists talk about inflation, you're not alone. But don't worry. Today I'm going to break down what inflation really is, why it happens, who wins and loses from it, and how governments try to control it, all in plain English. If something becomes harder to produce or ship, like when factories shut down or there's a shortage of materials, there's less of it available. Less supply with the same demand also means higher prices. You might have noticed this with things like cars, electronics, or even groceries during global supply chain disruptions. It can make it hard for businesses to plan costs and set prices. And for people on fixed incomes, it erodes their ability to buy what they need. So let's start simple. Inflation just means that prices, on average, go up over time. Imagine you have a mortgage of €100,000. That's why financial planners always talk about real returns, instead of just nominal ones. If you're earning 3% interest but inflation is 4%, you're actually going backwards. And while a little inflation is normal, and even healthy for an economy, letting it run wild can destroy trust in money itself. That's why central banks work so hard to keep it predictable and stable. It's a balancing act. Go too far with rate hikes, and you risk causing a recession, where demand drops too quickly and unemployment rises. Don't do enough, and inflation can spiral out of control, making planning and saving nearly impossible. If your wages rise with inflation, but your debt stays the same in nominal terms, that debt is effectively cheaper to pay off. Governments with big debts sometimes quietly prefer a bit of inflation for this reason. It helps shrink their real obligations over time. Your money buys less than it used to. That's it. But interest rates are the big lever most people talk about, because they have such a direct impact on borrowing costs, mortgages, credit cards, and business investment. When a lot of people suddenly want to buy things, businesses often raise prices because they can. Central banks raise interest rates to make borrowing more expensive. When loans cost more, people and businesses tend to borrow and spend less. That cools down demand and slows price increases. It's like gently tapping the brakes on the economy. Think of Christmas shopping or a hot housing market. Too many buyers chasing limited supply means prices go up. Imagine you could buy a basket of groceries for €50 last year. Most economies actually target a small, steady rate of inflation, often around 2% a year. Why? Because gentle inflation encourages people to spend and invest instead of hoarding cash that loses value over time. It also helps borrowers because the real value of their debt goes down slightly over time. This year, that same basket costs €52. That €2 difference is inflation. Even small percentages add up over time and eat away at your spending power. You might wonder, why does this happen? Well, there isn't just one reason. Inflation is usually driven by a few key forces. The first is demand. The second cause is supply problems. The third big driver is money itself. If the central bank or government increases the money supply too quickly, people have more cash chasing the same amount of goods. More money, same goods, equals higher prices. That's the classic too much money chasing too few goods scenario. It's why people worry about governments printing money to pay for things without real economic growth behind it. Now, let's be clear. Not all inflation is bad, but when inflation gets too high or unpredictable, things get messy. It hurts savers, because money in the bank loses value faster than it earns interest. Some people benefit from inflation, borrowers, for example. But for savers, it's the silent enemy. If your savings interest doesn't keep up with inflation, you're losing purchasing power every year. So, how do governments try to control inflation? The main tool is interest rates. On the other hand, if inflation is too low, central banks might cut interest rates to make borrowing cheaper, encouraging spending and investment. There are also other tools, like controlling the money supply or using government spending and taxation policies to influence demand. Inflation is often called the silent tax, because it can reduce everyone's purchasing power without any vote or debate. At Profit and Sense, our goal is to help you understand money without the jargon or spin. If you found this video helpful, hit that subscribe button. Join us for more easy-to-understand chats about business, finance, and markets.